Well, good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's having a good evening. You had a nice day. I know it was absolutely beautiful and sunny outside here today. Felt like a nice little bit of summer. So today for our practice, for our simple, gentle practice, we are going to focus on the sun and give gratitude to the beautiful sun that we had today and for the sun that we will have in the coming months. It's been shorter days since daylight savings time, but I really love to see the sun out and the vitamin D that we all need, and it's great for our soul and our minds, and of course, for our bodies. If you folks need to leave at all today, please make sure that you take any time that you need. If you need to go get a sip of water, if you need to go to use the bathroom, or even if your body just needs to get up and move around a little bit, it's your practice. I will be giving you different suggestions and different options today. We don't have any props or anything that we need to use specifically as part of the practice, but if you do like to use a blanket or blocks or anything to help support you throughout the practice, please do so. Again, this is your practice. So as I will be talking today, all I'm talking is just suggestions. I'll be leading you through in different sequence, and together what we'll do is we'll create our own practice, a practice for yourself. So I'll give you a little bit of pointers, I'll give you a little bit of options, and you can do with those whatever your body needs to. So today, how we're going to start is whatever comfortable position for you. For some reason, I like to put one leg in and one leg out. That seems to be right for my body. Now, I'd like you to make as comfortable as possible and just slightly close your eyes. Find your hip bones on the ground and just take a moment, put two hands on your heart and feel your breath. You inhale, hold, and exhale. Hold. Let's do this for a couple of rounds. So we inhale, hold, exhale. Inhale, hold, exhale. As we do this a couple more times, I just want you to remember this rhythm, this breath coming in through your nose and out through your nose. That moment of we want to keep this breath with us throughout the practice, no matter what we're doing. If we're doing something that requires a little bit more movement, just remember, don't go as too fast so you don't lose your breath. So let's all together start with our legs out in front of us and find those sitting bones on the mat. We could potentially put our hands beside us. If your hands don't reach down, we can sort of tent our fingers and have that little contact with our mat. Now, let's find that breath again. And we are going to lift our arms up and do just a small little salutation to the sun, just with our arms. And I invite you to come up with an inhale and down with an exhale through your nose. Let's do that for 3 more times. All right, and as I said at the beginning, today our practice is going to be focused around the sun today. So we're actually going to go through a couple of sun salutations. Now, a sun salutation, we have different poses through that. So what we're going to do is just break it down a little bit and make sure our body's adapting to each pose throughout the sun salutation. So I invite you all to come to a tabletop position. Now, in this tabletop position, We are going to look at our fingers, make sure that our palms engage to the ground, our fingertips are suction cupped to the ground, and that our knees are right below our hips, that we feel nice and grounded. What I like to do when I get to tabletop is sort of look around, not necessarily visually, but just looking in your body. What might I need right now? Let's explore this a little bit and focus on our wrists. The wrists are doing a lot of work right now, helping support us. So let's give a little love to our wrists by going slightly back, not so we touch the ground, and slightly forward. Slightly back and slightly forward. Now I invite you to sort of find a position with your hands that's different from a regular tabletop position. So you could potentially put one hand back, facing back, and one hand facing front, or you could do vice versa. And let's do the exact same thing. We're going to go slightly back and slightly forward. Now, this is definitely more of an extreme feeling for our wrists. So we want to make these motions very small, very subtle. The goal for our practice is to make sure that we're stretching, but we're never straining. Our bodies do a lot for us, and we want to make sure that we're giving lots of love to them. So we worked out those wrists. Now we're going to head to our hips. Now, once we're all set, let's take our hips to one side and to another. To one side and to another. And one side and to the other. All right, let's find our neutral position. Now, our knees are planted right underneath our hips. We have everything set. Now, let's put our weight a little bit forward into our hands and raise the feet and lower. Raise the feet and lower. And let's try to kick a little bit and see what sensation that gives into our feet. Kind of wake them up a little bit. We haven't forgotten your feet. You help us very much. And lower. Now I invite you all to either come up to a down dog position or child's. And for our child's pose, we're just gonna slightly lean back and extend our arms. Make sure those hands are engaged so we can feel the nice stretch on our back. Okay, so we're gonna come back to our table position. Remember, working out all those kinks to ourselves. Now, we are going to do a full sun salutation, and then we're gonna break it down a little bit. So let's go up, hinge up, and back to our down dog. Walk her out a little bit. Engage those hips and move side to side. All right. So we are engaged in our down dog. We are lifting our feet so our heels up off the floor. Again, engaging. And remember that breath. Let's take 2 breaths in this pose. Wonderful. And now let's push our weight out to in front of us into a plank and slowly lower down. Now, with our planks, it's very important to remember that we can do a variation of our plank. So if we want to do are feeling very engaged, we can be up on our toes or we can lightly bring our legs down. Okay, so now We are going to put one ear to the ground and engage the breath. And let's put our face forward. And let's have these hands right underneath our shoulders. Again, those fingertips engage the mat, nose to the ground, and bring that nose all the way up and slightly curve the back. And let's lower down and try that again. Up into Cobra and down. Wonderful. And now we're going to lean back into Child's and work our way up. We can either come to a stand mountain position on our own in whatever way we can feel that's good for our bodies, or we can do the original salutation and halfway lift. And make sure our knees are slightly bent and that we're engaging the lower back. Halfway lift and that tabletop flat back shape and lower down. And now we're going to lift up and bring those arms out all around for the sun and down. All right, so let's explore that a little bit more. We're going to do one more round of our salutation, and then we're just going to break it down a little bit. So let's take our arms, lift up. Thank you, sun. We love you. And down. And now we're going to hinge at the hips into our halfway lift and down into our forward fold. Up again to our halfway lift. Down to our forward fold. Now we're going to raise up to our salutation, but I just want you to make sure that these knees are bent a little bit. We don't want to put too much pressure on them. We want to make sure our feet are nice and stabilized. And then we'll come all the way up with gratitude. Now we're going to find ourselves back into our downward dog position, and we'll continue. Up and down, halfway lift, and down, and reach our arms and engage our legs for a down dog. And flow into our plank, lower, legs first, and down. Inhale in, hold, exhale out, hold. And with our nose drawing a line right up the middle and rounding the back, keeping our arms beside our shoulders for a cobra, and down, and right back to child's or to down dog. Wonderful. Now let's bend those knees and we're going to walk our hands up a little bit and go into halfway lift, down, forward fold, halfway lift, and down, forward fold. And again, bringing our arms up and around and thanking the sun for all of its lovely glory. Now, let's break it down by pose a little bit. So, what you can do with the sun salutation, everyone's different. Everyone wants to find their own particular flow. So, as we go into our dog, we're going to forward fold, halfway lift, fold, and walk our hands up to the mat and taking our hips and pushing them back and feeling that good stretch, not strain, of our dog. Now, let's try this a little bit. Explore to see what in our down dog stretches and not strains for us. So I like to personally, I call it walking my dog. And I just rotate from heel to heel, lifting it up ever so slightly off the mat. And sometimes what I also like to do to make sure that our arms are engaged is just wiggle the fingertips a little and put them down. Just a little and put them down. Now, a variation for our downward dog is our child's pose, or we can also do a dolphin pose. So I personally tend to find it difficult with the wrist sometimes. Our weight can be not quite as distributed sometimes. So if my wrists are ever hurting and I'm doing a salutation, I like to try dolphin. So we're simply in our down dog, but with our forearms, and have them parallel to your shoulders. And it still gives you that nice, beautiful stretch of the leg and the hip. And it gives that opening to the body, just like downward dog does. So as we try that different variation, we also are going to find a variation on our planks. So like I had mentioned earlier, we can go for our regular plank, or we can lower our legs just a little, and just like down dog, we can also use our forearms. Now, it means absolutely nothing to do different variations, and it's most important to do what's right for your body. So, when doing a dolphin, down like that, get that nice stretch. And then we're gonna come down to our plank. And let's put our ear to the floor. What's our body saying right now? Let's take a couple deep breaths in and out. And out. Now, let's explore our Cobra a little bit. So, our hands are right underneath our shoulders. We are connected, and we're going to put our head down to the ground, forehead down, and slightly just raise our head, just so our head's up off the ground. And take a look to the right, take a look to the left, look down and up. Giving just a little bit of notice to our neck. Our neck does a lot for us. It holds the heaviest part of our body for sure. So we need to make sure that we give that some love and attention. Now, back to our Cobra. The idea of our Cobra is to make sure we have that nice stretch and not strain, but also engage the body in different ways. So we can find our tops of our feet right down to the floor. And we can also find our knees. And one great way to release back pain is to go on your tummy like this and windshield back and forth. It's great to do this on your back, but it's also great to do this on your stomach. Now we can lower those down. And one nice thing about the Cobra is we have the nice support from our arms. But like our dolphin, or like our downward dog, we can do a variation like we did with dolphin. So we can do this by have our hands by our sides, or if we're looking for just a little bit more stretch, we can slowly push our arms up and extend into puppy. That will still give you the stretch and just a little bit more than a Cobra will. And lower back down. Now, let's move in to either a dolphin, dog, or child pose. And we'll just catch our breath there for a few moments. Okay, stretch it up. All right. We're just gonna wiggle it out. Let's everyone's come to a standing position in mountain pose. And we're gonna do full salutation, and we're gonna use all of those little different options to serve whatever our body needs. So I invite you all to stand up at the top of your mat. Let's shake things out a little, move those wrists, move the hips, move the legs a little bit. Okay. Arms up, thanking the sun. Hinge at the hips down to the ground. Halfway lift, up and down and up, down, into a forward fold. Now with the knees bent, we're gonna hinge up from the hips all the way here. Now, let's go down to our dog. Dog, dolphin, or child's. And find the hips coming back, the arms engaged, and that little stretch, not strain, and the back of the calf. Now, we'll go to our plank, lower down. Into our Cobra, and down. And back to our child's or downward dog. Wonderful. Now, let's take our arms and slightly bend the knees and walk the arms back. And we'll go to a halfway lift. Down. We lift. Down. And let's go through a salutation one more time. Hinge at the hips. Down. Halfway lift. Down. Halfway lift. Down. All the way up. And finding our down dog. Come through into our plank. Lower knees. Lower chest and body. Reach up for Cobra. And down. And pushing on back to child's downward dog or dolphin. All right. When you are finished, please take your time and meet me in a seated position. Now, we used a bunch of different parts of our body with our downward dog. The most important, is to make sure that we are giving the proper care to our bodies and giving moments to those areas that we worked on. So, if you could, I invite you to sit with me in a butterfly position. Now, if you do have any blocks or books or anything you would like to put underneath your knees to help support, so you feel the strength that you need to have the strong neutral spine and have our palms up by our knees. Now, we're going to come back to that breath and we're going to do 3 cycles. Okay? Inhale, hold. Exhale. Now, because we did our down dogs and our dolphins and childs and tabletop position, these wrists have done some work today. So let's explore how we can give a little love to them. I invite you to take your arms and clasp them in your hands together like this. And we are going to find some circles, circle motion within the wrists. And let's reverse and go the other way. It kind of feels a little funny and it's getting some kinks out. Don't know about you, but I can hear a couple cracks going on in there. So that means my wrists are loving it. Now, we're going to take her hands and intertwine them. And we'll keep our arms down and touch our feet. And we're going to take them together, clasp, and we're going to put them as high as our own individual range of motion will go. This range of motion is, again, the stretch, but not the strain. So for myself today, I find my range of motion just not quite above my head today. And I'm feeling a good stretch, but I'm not straining. And then I'm going to take my wrist and circle them all the way back down to my toes. Feeling those kinks? And let's go counterclockwise, right back up to that moment of our range of motion, and bring right back down. Let's shake that out a little bit. And now we are going to give love to our shoulders. Our shoulders have been doing quite a bit today. So we're going to give them some love by keeping our hands on them so they know they have our attention. And let's start by circling one elbow. Circling the elbow so we feel like we are drawing little circles. And we'll go the other way. Let's try the other one. Little tiny circles and then get bigger and bigger. It's very important to repeat what you've done on one side and to the other side and the other way to make sure that our body's finding a nice equal stance. All right, and let's extend the arms. And I invite you just to shake it out a little bit again. Get those shoulders moving. Now, still with the shoulders, let's either keep them down here or we can release, put them up to our ears and down. Try up to our ears and just let them go. Let's do that a couple more times and remember that they're heavy. So we bring them on up and let them go. Bring them on up and let them go. And one more time, let it go. Great, wonderful. Now, let's get those hips a little bit. So as we're sitting here, let's reach our legs out just as much as you feel comfortable for you today. And let's bring our arms out. And we're going to lean to the right side, just to your own range of motion. And up. And down the other side. And up. And we're going to go into a bit of a twist. So I'd like you to keep your arms up. And we're going to put our right hand behind us. And we're going to take our left hand, either can stay up or we can put it to the right knee and twist. And remember to keep your breath as we're twisting. And let's bring our arms up. And I invite you to do that again on the other side. So the left arm back. And we'll take our right arm to our left knee and twist. Now we want to make sure that we are twisting from the waist and not with our head. So if you feel like you're twisting with your head, I invite you just to bring it forward. Just so you can remind yourself that it's your body twisting and not your neck. Our head's just simply going in the same direction. And back to center. and lower down. All right. Now we're going to do something very similar, but we're going to bring our legs right in front of us. And we're going to cross our left leg over our right leg. Just like we're hanging out. Very comfy. And we'll try our twist again. So arms up. Now you don't even need to put your arms up if you don't want. There's simply a guide to let us know that I'm here. I'm not going to fall. And we're going to bring this leg. And if you're feeling like you want a little bit more of a twist, try putting your left arm to your hip. And remember, keeping that body twisted and not your neck. And back to center. And let's try that again on the other leg. So we'll cross our right leg over our left. Sure, sitting bones are nice and flat. Take our left hand back and our right to our hip and twist. All right, and let's meet back to center. Wonderful. Now, I invite you to take whatever body's movements you need before we come into a little bit of a back stretch. So I find a nice way to stretch out these shoulders. Well, give yourself a little hug. You're doing great. You're having a good time. All right, and let's make our way to the ground and to our backs. And slowly down. I invite you to bring your legs, your feet to the floor and to your legs, and to engage your arms down. And we're going to just go into a little bit of a bridge. So we're just going to do a small bridge and then we'll gradually work our way up. So we want to make sure that our hands are engaged, our feet are engaged to the mat, and slightly begin to lift the pelvis, just ever so slightly, and down. Now, let's fix ourselves and find any way that we can be more comfortable in our bridge and a little more supported. So if we want to put a blanket or a block or a book perhaps underneath our seat to help us get a little bit more elevated in our bridge. So we'll go a little bit higher than we did last time. And let's hold for 3 breaths. And lower. And I invite you to do this again, where we're going to try and explore our furthest away we can be from the mat. Now, that doesn't mean that we're all going to be up to the sky. We all want to find that point that gets us there. We want to find engagement in our arms and our legs. We want to feel those thighs and the feet to the floor. And let's take a deep breath. And in one more breath, we're going to just push a little bit more. So we're at a full 110% and slow lower back down to the ground. All right. Now we're just going to give our hips a little bit of love before we come into a resting pose. And let's just do a couple of windshield wiper legs. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I invite you to raise the right leg and put it in a number 4 position. We want to make sure that your leg is resting on your shin and not your knee. And so we're in a nice little number 4 shape. And let's take our left foot. Perhaps we can leave it here if you're feeling a good stretch. And if you need a little bit more, let's raise the left leg. And we're in a supported pigeon right now. And we're engaging both legs, pushing the right leg knee out and taking the left leg and pushing it and guiding it so it's at its full potential. And lower. And let's do that again on the left side. Remember, we want to make sure that we're giving the exact same amount of love to each side. And lift lift the right leg if we're feeling a little bit more of a stretch. And down. All right, and let's do a couple more of windshield wipers. Let that little twist go. Now let's take our legs, and when they're leaning to the right side, I invite you to bring your arms out nice and long and take your head and slightly turn it so your eyes are facing the left. Let's take a couple deep breaths. Feel that nice stretch in the hip and the back of the thigh. We are feeling like we do want a little bit more. We can take our right leg just above our left shin and press it down for a little bit more of a stretch. But remember, stretch, not strain. And come back to neutral and lower the right leg. And let's try again on our left. Right. Now, I invite you to take any movements you're feeling. If you need to swish around the hips a little bit, arms, you need to walk around, whatever you need to do. I'll give you a couple moments and then we're going to meet into our final resting pose. Now remember, everyone's resting pose is different for them. We want to make sure that we have ourselves completely comfortable. If you have a blanket or a pillow or anything that's good for you in this moment is exactly what you need. Now, once you are in your comfortable position, I invite you to wherever you are to take your hands and put them on your heart. We're going to give our heart a couple of intentional breaths before we come into our pose. Today, this practice was intentional for the sun. Our gratitude that the sun came out today, give us a little sliver of summer again, and hopefully I might do it again tomorrow. I invite you all to come into your resting spot, and with the sound of my voice, I will bring you back when it is time. As we come back to our focus, ever so slightly, making little movements in the body, remembering that we don't need to go fast, go at whatever pace we need to. We live in a world that is just go, 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 go. And it's a little bit much to say, don't think about anything, don't worry about the stress. Because really, we can't do that. But what we can with our practice, and especially with our breath that we found at the beginning of our practice, to make sure that we are always connected with the earth and connected with the sun. We can take that feeling and take it into our day to day and whatever we're doing. We're lowering, just like we stretched, but not strain. We want to lower our stress, but not forget about it. Now, as I leave you today with the practice, because we were thanking the sun, and this practice was dedicated to the beautiful sun and the vitamin D and light and loves that it gives to us. I'll leave you with a quote from one of my favorite poets, Rumi. We, after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, "You owe me." Never look what happens like that, with a love like that, and the sky shines so bright. Thank you very much for taking this practice with me today. I sincerely enjoyed seeing everyone. I hope you have an amazing rest of the evening and a great week ahead. Thank you.